comparing whole fruit to isolated fructose is about the same as comparing lettuce to Coca-Cola. There is no comparison. Guys, Justin Morgan here. I haven't had a lot of time to do videos lately. I started back to school last semester. I was there last semester. The semester started again last week, and today is Friday, the last day of the second week of school, and I just haven't been spending as much time working on some of these videos as I had previously. But I do have some topics that I wanted to cover, and today's topic is the concept of fruit and fructose and the negative effects on it. Now, we have seen a lot of negative side effects that people have associated with fructose, and so that being increased like triglyceride levels, increased weight gain, several of the biological markers or risk stratification markers that we see for overall health and cardiovascular health. And that research has exclusively been done on 100% fructose, meaning it was a refined sugar product like Coca-Cola or any other food source that has been concentrated, like high fructose corn syrup would be a good example of that. Now, you do, however, not see that within with people eating a fruit-based diet. Now, fruit is not a source of 100% fructose. It has a mixture of glucose and fructose. Not to mention, it has all of fiber, it has protein, and it has some fat in it, with very few exceptions. Dates, actually, I don't think have any fat, so that would be an exception. But most fruits have some amount of fat, even if it's only 5%. You have to be real careful when you're talking to people and they're saying, well, I saw, look at this research on fructose, look at this and that. So just to use some examples, like I said, I'm running low on time, so I don't have time to link all these articles and things that I've read and that I'm going to reference. So I'll give you information that you can Google and you can find these yourself if you're interested. But the first is, there were two gorillas held at the Cleveland Zoo. You could find that by just Googling gorilla calories Cleveland Zoo. And they had previously been on a diet not conducive to their species. So they were eating lots of cakes, lots of sugary, refined products to get them to eat them. And what they saw within those gorillas, the two that were there, or that I'm referencing, is that they started to have, they were very overweight, and two, they started to actually throw up the food that they were eating and eating it again. So they were very addicted to sugar, or at least that was the assumption of their caretakers, is that the people that were taking care of their diet and their food intake, was that possibly these gorillas had a sugar addiction, which obviously gorillas eat a ton of fruit, and they're not throwing it up and eating it again in the wild. That is abnormal behavior. So that's one example where you cannot, under any circumstances, compare the sugar or fructose research that people talk about to a whole fruit, a whole food fruit. To finish out that story of the gorillas, what ended up happening is they switched them back to a diet that was normal for a gorilla to have. And so it had lots of green leafy vegetables. That was a huge part of their diet. They ate pounds and pounds of green leafy vegetables. And they eat lots of fruit. Fruit is a major calorie source, even if it's not as much as, what we that follow kind of like an 80-10-10 diet type thing would take. Fruit for gorillas is still a major calorie source. So fruit and flax seeds and things like that. And over the course of a year, each of the gorillas lost about 60 pounds. All of their levels, their cholesterol went down. Heart disease is a major killer for gorillas in captivity. So their triglycerides improved, their cholesterol levels went down, all their fasted blood glucose levels. I think I said that. So all of these markers that we use to determine health improved while these gorillas were doing this. Now, obviously, we're not gorillas, but we have done a ton of research for our diets based on what apes were eating, or what we did to apes, to see a cause and effect relationship. So it's not abnormal to say that because they did this, there might be an improvement. And I'm only talking about addiction here, so there is that. Now, the other thing is there are groups of people. If you have done any research on Papua New Guinea, they are a people that eat the banana is a major calorie source for them. Now, I love when people think of Papua New Guinea, they have all these weird thoughts in mind. And I know that when I was studying some aspects of the paleo diet, Lauren Cordain in writing, when he referenced hunter-gatherer societies, I know that he used Papua New Guinea to do that. And which is funny because the diet that the people of Papua New Guinea eat is diametrically opposed to the paleo diet. Their primary foods are bananas and root vegetables. That is their primary calorie sources. Now, they're not a vegan or vegetarian society, but and in fact they even eat humans. From what I understand, it's a way to punish for crime and that kind of thing within their society, with certain tribal societies within Papua New Guinea. To punish them by eating them, it sends out a message to everyone else that you probably should not commit these kinds of crimes. So that is another example. And then my last example is humans. The BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, put out it was like a documentary, I guess, on humans called Going Ape. Now, don't confuse that with the National Geographic version. There is actually one, they looked more at like social settings and how humans compared to apes. But in the BBC version, they actually took, I think it was like 14 humans, or 12, I think it's 12 humans or something like that, and they put them in a zoo for 14 days, for 2 weeks, and they fed them a gorilla diet so they could eat as much fruit as they wanted. They were given all the greens and different types of foods to eat. And the people there didn't have to do anything except for communicate with each other, have a good time, and eat as much as they cared for. And they wanted to see what would happen. So what ended up happening over the course of the 2 weeks was that the same like you saw with the gorillas, that on average they lost about 10 pounds over the course of the 2 weeks, eating just as much as they cared for. There was food left over of the rations for every person. So they could have ate more if they wanted. And they did not track their caloric intake. Like with the gorillas that I mentioned earlier, that they were actually eating double the calories while losing the 60 pounds over the year. For these humans that I'm referencing now, they didn't track their caloric intake. They could just eat as much as they wanted. And much like the gorillas, though, their triglycerides improved, their fasted blood glucose levels improved, their overall fitness levels improved. They dropped weight to a healthier BMI level. So you saw 100% improvement. So is there any comparison to refined fructose and fructose intake when compared to people eating a fruit-based diet? Absolutely not. I'm going to have to say that the research does not support that. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.